Good morning to you all. Uh, I warmly welcome you to the final day of ITEC program on the theme of energy systems and carbon neutral economy, which is hosted by Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. We will be starting the first session of the day. The talk will be on the topic of cement industry and its changing paradigm in the context of climate change mitigation. The talk will be delivered to us by Mr. Anupam Badola. Mr. Anupam is currently working as Assistant General Manager, Sustainability with Dalmia Cement Bharat Limited. The company is serving as catalyst for the decarbonization of the whole cement industry sector, which is termed as hard to abate. He is instrumental in setting bold commitments and following up actions on climate mitigation. As a member of corporate sustainability team, he also drives ESG disclosures, third-party assurance, and knowledge partnership on sustainability at national and international level. Previously, Mr. Anupam has also worked with third-party auditing firm for validation and verification of carbon credits under UNFCCC mechanisms as well as other voluntary standards. So with this very short introduction, sir, we will warmly welcome you and I give the rest of the time to you, sir.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I hope I'm audible and visible to everybody.
Yes, sir. You're audible as well as visible.
Okay, thank you so much. So first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Priyanka for giving me this opportunity to interact with you all. It is a great initiative by IIT Delhi to build interactions on climate change subjects and particularly on how industry is decoding the same in terms of policy development, in terms of technology development, innovation, and actions. Institutions like IIT are a great advantage for India and whole globe. We feel proud that you people are developing solutions even for decarbonization and leading it globally. We know many people from IITs who are helping the industry in energy efficiency, carbon capture and utilization, development of new green materials, and basically this all would be helpful in realization of net zero dream that has been visualized by global leaders. And as you may be aware, COP26 has been concluded. It was concluded very recently on 13th of November. And if we see the commitments now towards net zero economy, then including India and other countries who have taken commitment in COP26, now we have more than 90% GDP that has been subscribed to net zero transition. It's a huge force. When we say more than 90% GDP, global GDP that is subscribed to become net zero, some may have said for 2030, some may have said 2035, some have said for 2040, and some have set target for 2050, 60, and 2070. Years may be important from technical point of view, but more important is the direction. We all have got a direction, and now we know that because of that direction, the technology development, policy developments, collaborations, and innovations, all that will happen towards net zero. And therefore, there would be not even a single sector, whether it is industry, whether it is service, or even at household level, there will be impacts of this transition. It would be visible in terms of procurements, it would be visible in terms of technology deployment, it will be visible in terms of lifestyles that people will adopt going forward. So let me but first come to the one important point, and that is climate change is real and it's happening as we speak. So And just a minute, let me start the slide. Can you see the slides?
Sir, we can see the slides.
Okay. Yes. So as I was saying, climate change is real and it's happening as we speak. So maybe if someone wants to, just to keep it more interactive, if somebody wants to share some experiences, because in 20 years time period, 25 years time period, it is quite possible to see those visible impacts of climate change in terms of weather patterns, in terms of consumption patterns. So if anybody wants to share anything, it's most welcome. Anybody? Okay, so then let me share my experience. I belong to a very remote Himalayan region. My village is in a very remote Himalayan region, and I studied there till 9th standard. So from my doorstep in the childhood, I could see the Himalayan peaks, the mountain range, which was covered full of snow. It was never a sight that throughout the year that the peaks are devoid or do not have snow. The bare patches of snow were not visible there. And it was a regular thing. Throughout the year, the mountains were full of snow. But now, if we go there and we see from the same spot, we can see many mountain peaks which do not have snow at all. This is a change, visible change within 25 years of time period. And that shows that how weather and climate is changing in terms of its visibility also. Second important point I would like to share is within the same valley, there are 2, 3 rivers, streams, which used to flow. And when we visited the marketplaces, nearby marketplaces, which were on the bank of the river, we could always hear the bubble of the river, and it was very loud. But today, when we visit those places, those marketplaces, it is not possible to hear that bubble of the river. And if you see if you have the closer look, then one realizes that the water has also reduced drastically. And there is no hydropower, there is no storage upstream. So due to certain changes in the patterns of climate, it is clear that weather pattern is also affected and the impacts are visible. So I thought I should share it with you. And therefore, I am very much convinced that climate change is real and it is happening as we speak. And therefore, the topic we are discussing today is very, very relevant and pertinent to the time, which is cement industry and its changing paradigm in the context of climate change. Now, when we build a home, when we see infrastructure, good infrastructure, better infrastructure near our home, near our location, what happens? There is always a sense of happiness, a feeling of happiness. It gives sense of security, it gives sense of comfort, and due to sense of security and comfort, we feel happiness. So therefore, we call cement, which definitely binds concrete, other materials in concrete like sand, gravel, aggregates, but at the same time, it also binds happiness. We create happiness. Our material creates happiness in the society by construction of homes, by providing the right infrastructure, by providing the uh, resilient infrastructure to the society. And in fact, this infrastructure and the homes which are built through cement and concrete, they also help in saving the people from natural disasters. So, on the one hand, cement and concrete do help people to have resilience construction, to have better construction for saving lives, but at the same time, it is also attributable in some way for climate impacts, and rightly so, because around 7 to 8% of GHG emissions in cement industry are attributable to uh, uh, emissions. Say, out of global GHG emissions, 7 to 8% are attributable to cement industry. To get a brief overview of the cement sector in India, you will see that we are still in the basic infrastructure development phase in India. Looking at the product demand, as you can see in the slide, so around 60% demand comes from the housing and real estate sector. So we are still building houses. We are still building low cost houses. We are building houses for the poor. And then there is 22% demand, which is coming from the infrastructure sector. So if you combine both of them, nearly 80% demand in India of cement and concrete, it comes from the basic sector, core sector. And we are still in the construction phase. We have not reached to a repair and maintenance phase. For example, in Europe, developed countries, they are now into repair and maintenance phase, where construction phase is very limited in terms of cement and concrete. But in our case and other developing countries such as South Africa, Indonesia, Brazil, these are the places where most of the construction will take place in future, in next 1 or 2 decades. And in fact, nearly 70% of India is yet to be built. There will be a lot of new constructions that will happen in India. And from that point of view, the current capacity of nearly 550 million ton per annum of cement would grow further. There will be more capacity additions. There will be more production. And therefore, the peaking of emissions in cement sector would be, it is difficult that when the peaking of emissions will take place in the cement sector, particularly in developing countries. Now, as I was saying, that impact of climate change and the awareness of climate change is visible in every sector, including cement. So, cement sector has already taken a lot of commitments. And if you see the individual companies, large companies on global scale or in India, all of them have taken commitments to become or to reduce the CO2 emissions by a certain degree. They have targets in short term, they have targets in long term. For example, Global Cement and Concrete Association, which is a major cement industry association globally and represents around 40 to 45% of the installed capacity, cement capacity in globe, has already come out with a plan to become or to produce carbon neutral concrete by 2050. Similar is the case of European Cement Association. Similar is the case with Cement Association in UK, Cement Association in Germany. And therefore, we can say that largely cement sector is very much aligned to the GHG emission reductions and net zero economy goal of the globe. And let me also give you a brief overview of one initiative which was voluntarily led by CEOs in the cement sector. It was called Cement Sustainability Initiative. It was launched around 2000, long back, and during its development, during its operation, voluntarily, we could develop complete inventorization protocol for the cement sector. Today, it is almost like benchmark on global scale. So for example, if there's a cement plant and we have to do a GHG inventory of that plant, so that particular protocol, which is called CO2 and energy protocol, it has become a standard. So any plant in India or any plant in Brazil or Indonesia, whichever is using that protocol, they use standard methodology, they use standard calculation process so that we can benchmark one number with another number on global scale. And the number you see on the screen are based on the same protocol. So these numbers are very much comparable, and they have been developed by World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Under the protocol has been developed by World Business Council for Sustainable Development under Cement Sustainability Initiative. Now the work of Cement Sustainability Initiative is being forwarded to Global Cement and Concrete Association. The Global Cement and Concrete Association, which came with 2050 carbon neutral concrete roadmap, represents around 45% of the capacity in the cement sector. And in our case, in the case of Dalmia Cement, we call ourselves climate catalyst because we have committed to become carbon negative by 2040. And we announced this roadmap in 2018 itself at the Climate Action Summit in California. After the announcement of roadmap that we did in 2018, there were a lot of development in the sector. Many companies came forward with ambitious targets, not just in cement sector, but in the entire hard to abate sector, where steel is there, aluminum is there, glass industry is there, many other industries are there, and they came with ambitious targets to reduce GHG emissions by 2030 or 2050. Let me also give you a brief overview of some inventorization, like how CO2 is released in the cement industry. So for people who may not have complete information of the cement industry, so this would be helpful in understanding that what kind of GHG sources are there in the cement industry. So generally in cement, we first mine the limestone, and after mining the limestone, we grind it, mix with other additives, and then burn it to form clinker. The clinker is the most energy intensive intermediate product which is formed. And after grinding clinker with other materials, cement is produced. So there are mainly two types of emissions in the cement industry. One is energy based. So energy based basically, which are generated by burning of fossil fuels. And second is process based. The process based emissions are energy independent. They are not dependent on energy, and they are generated when limestone is burned. So when limestone is burned or calcined, it dissociates into calcium oxide and CO2. So this CO2 represents, which is generated through dissociation of limestone, and it is a necessary process for cement manufacturing because this calcium oxide is utilized in manufacturing of clinker and cement. So the process emissions which are generated from limestone are responsible for nearly 50 to 55% of GHG emissions in a cement plant. The remaining emissions are energy based. The remaining 40 to 45% emissions are energy based. So energy based emissions come from one, thermal energy, which is used in generation of heat in the cement kiln to burn the limestone and to do the calcination process and further formation of clinker in the cement kiln. This is around 25 to 30% of emissions in the cement plant by thermal energy. Another is fossil fuel based electricity. The fossil fuel based electricity can have both scope 1 as well as scope 2 emissions. Scope 1 emissions are those emissions which are happening within the plant boundary. So calcination emissions of limestone, they are also scope 1. The thermal energy generation in the kiln, they are also scope 1. And then we also have captive power plants. In India, generally industry do have captive power plants. This is not a practice in other countries, but due to the grid instability and also due to the cost advantage, industry has found it useful to have its own captive power plant for electricity generation. So electricity generation, that also falls under scope 1 emissions, and they are generally, the plants are located near the cement plants. Power plants are located near the cement plants from where the electricity is delivered to the cement plant. And remaining electricity can also be delivered to the grid, but primarily those power plants have been commissioned to cater to the cement plants. So thermal energy, then fossil fuel based electricity, and electricity can be either from captive power plant scope 1 or from grid scope 2. And third is material transport. So there are on-site equipments for the material handling and also vehicles for material transport. Besides, there are vehicles for passenger transport as well, transport of employees, consultants, other case. So this entire category where liquid fuel, fossil fuel consumption is happening, either in equipment like in mining area, mining equipment, or in the transportation trucks which transport the material, raw material or the finished good. So that is another area which falls either in scope 1 or scope 3. So these are the basically areas of GHG emissions in a cement industry. And these are the areas where action has to be taken in the cement industry if we have to reduce the GHG emissions, if we have to make carbon neutral concrete, carbon neutral cement, then these are the areas where solution has to take place, where solution have to be implemented, and where innovation need to happen. Now coming to the solutions or levers, in this slide, we have discussed the areas where emissions are happening, the inventory of the cement plant where GHG emissions are being emitted. Now in next slide, in few next slides, I'll be covering the levers which cement industry is using to reduce the GHG emissions, to reduce the carbon footprints of the cement we produce. Till now, if anybody has any question, please feel free to ask. Okay, so I will continue with the another few slides. So the blended cement is one major lever. As I was saying, clinker is the main intermediary product where emissions take place in the cement industry. So more we reduce the clinker in cement, better our cements become in terms of emission profile, CO2 emissions profile. So this is one important lever. And from circular economy point of view also, it is important lever because cement industry has process advantages. We have flexibility in terms of fuels because temperatures are very high. We are considered best incinerators globally. The cement industry kilns are considered best incinerators due to high temperatures and higher residence time for the fuels, where the fuels get completely burnt. The clinker, when reduced, the footprint of cement is also reduced. And just to give you a idea of it, nearly to produce 1 ton of clinker, about 860 or 870 kg of CO2 is emitted. To make 1 ton of clinker, 0.8 to 0.9 tons of CO2 is emitted. And this is the major factor from which CO2 footprint is coming in the cement. So less we make clinker in the cement, less we make the footprint of the cement. If you see as compared to globe, India has been doing quite well. The clinker factor globally is 76%, and India, it is 68%. So by this, we can say that we are doing better on circular economy levers as far as the raw material is concerned. And at the same time, we are also helping other industries. For example, this clinker factor is reduced by use of waste, other cementitious materials from the industry, such as fly ash from the thermal power plant, blast furnace slag from the steel industry. So if we do that, at the same time, we are also helping thermal power plants to operate properly. We are also helping steel industry to dispose their waste. Nearly all the blast furnace slag is consumed by cement industry, which is a waste of steel industry, and nearly 50 to 60% of the fly ash of the power plants, thermal power plants, is consumed by the cement industry, which allows them to function seamlessly. And in our case, in Dalmia Cement, we have one of the best rates globally in clinker factor improvement. Our clinker factors are best, one of the best globally. Second important lever in the cement industry to reduce the GHG emissions is use of green fuels or alternative fuels. Now, I was referring to incinerators. Basically, green fuels or alternative fuels are those wastes of industry. They may be hazardous or non-hazardous in nature. So these are the wastes which have some calorific value. Now, to fully destroy those wastes, it is required to incinerate them in the incinerators. When we do it in incinerators, one has to deploy additional pollution control equipments, first of all, so that there is no pollutant emissions. And secondly, the energy recovery is not to the level that it should be. On the other hand, cement industry kilns, due to high temperatures, 1500 degrees centigrade, 1600 degrees centigrade, and high residence time, provide a very good alternative for incinerators. And there are added advantage also. When we use those incinerable waste in the cement industry, basically the heat provided by fossil fuel gets replaced. So in a way, the equivalent heat of fossil fuel is eliminated when we use them in the cement industry. Secondly, the emissions do not get in the environment due to already pollution control technology installed there. And second, due to the complex clinker chemistry, because the residuals and byproducts as well as emissions there, they get absorbed in the clinker chemistry itself. So due to this, it is a win-win situation. One, the society is getting rid of the waste materials like non-recyclable plastics, many hazardous, non-hazardous waste from the industry. And also at the same time, the cement industry and the society is also getting rid of GHG emissions, which otherwise would have been happening on account of use of fossil fuels for heat generation in the cement kiln. So here our India average is 4, and Dalmia has reached currently the latest figures are near 15%, and we are gradually increasing. Here, some external levers are required. As you can see globally, particularly in Europe and other countries, the GHG emissions, the thermal substitution rate is better compared to India because they have polluter to pay policy. Here, we do not have polluter to pay policy. So we need to have that polluter to pay policy so that the generators of the waste come forward and provide the opportunity for cement industry to utilize the wastes and burn them in the cement kilns. Third lever is energy efficiency. Globally, we are doing very good on energy efficiency because in cement industry, in India, in general in the industry, the energy costs are very high. A larger component of our cost goes to energy. And due to this reason, it is natural that we deploy the technologies which are latest, which are energy efficient. And primarily, this is the reason why we have the most efficient cement plants globally. The Indian cement industry is most energy efficient globally. And you can see it from the chart which I have shown. There's a significant sizable difference between global average and India average. And we are also working good on energy efficiency. We are taking a lot of measures to reduce our energy consumption. At the same time, when we use alternative fuels, the energy consumption goes up because the alternative fuels or green fuels are not very dense like coal or pet coke. So due to this, there is some loss in the efficiency, but the overall impact is still better because ultimately the waste disposal happens and emission reductions do happen. This is the earlier one was the heat consumption of the clinker in megajoule per ton of clinker. So basically this is thermal energy efficiency. And in this slide, you can see the electrical energy efficiency. Again, even in electrical energy efficiency, we are best globally. The Indian average is much lower than the global average in terms of kilowatt hours of energy consumed per ton of cement. Then there is one emerging lever, and we believe this is a very important lever for cement industry because, as I was mentioning, nearly 50 to 55% emissions of the cement industry or of a cement plant are energy independent. They are not dependent on energy. Whether you use renewable energy, still that 50 to 55% emission will take place. And the only lever to reduce them is reducing the clinker factor, which can only be done up to a certain extent as per the current technology. So the lever, therefore, that is required is capturing of the carbon dioxide and utilizing it. Now, if you see the total emissions from the cement industry globally, they are close to 2 billion. So technologically, through green fuels, through energy efficiency, through heat generated from the renewables, etc., technological pathway can provide reduction in energy related emissions, so which is basically 40 to 45%, right? Now, remaining 50 to 55%, which would closely be about 1 to 1.2 billion, will require carbon capture. Without carbon capture, it is not possible. And then carbon capture and utilization has potential to provide deep emissions reductions up to 7 billion tons per annum. So essentially, there is a significant potential for CCU in the cement industry, and not just in cement industry, entire industry, industrial sector, because out of 7 billion, 1 to 1.2 billion of process related emissions can be, quenched by CCU in cement, and the rest can be applicable to other industries as well. It is emerging as a very important industrial sector, as a separate industrial sector, and it is delivering demand, driving demand in other core sectors also. For example, renewable energy. So for CCU also you need renewable energy. For CCU you will need green hydrogen, you will need electrolyzers, you will need various type of catalysts for the organic reactions, etc. The prime challenge in adoption of CCU is high cost and affordability and the acceptability. So currently these are some challenges which we have to eliminate, but otherwise this appears to be a very important lever for cement industry going forward in tackling the climate impacts and GHG emissions from the sector. Another lever which is emerging is electric vehicles. So as you can see, the energy consumption compared to diesel vehicle, in electric vehicles, it is very less. So therefore, it is very energy efficient. The transport is very energy efficient when it happens through electric vehicle. The problem is energy density. In diesel, the energy density is very high, and in electric vehicle, the energy density is very low. Now, this is the major challenge where everybody is working. But once this challenge is, through innovations is sorted out, eliminated, then naturally electric vehicles will be the future due to the energy efficiency they provide. Apart from energy efficiency, it is also very important that they provide clean transport where a lot of vehicular emissions, not just CO2, but in terms of air pollution, can also be reduced. So it is a win-win opportunity, and EV transition is also going to take place more aggressively in the industry, not just in cement industry, in coming decade. Various states have come forward. In fact, Government of India at central level have also come forward. They also have EV policy, adoption policy. Government of Maharashtra also has some policies on EV, and it is expected that coming decade would be of electric vehicles. A lot of startups are also emerging. In India also there are startups, and those startups are providing promising solutions. In Dalmia Cement also we have taken up the EV transition challenge, and we are working on it. Now let me give you a brief overview how we are tackling the climate challenge being in the cement industry, and in our company what we are doing. We call it visualizing beyond carbon neutrality, because we feel that carbon neutrality is like a stop point, but at the same time, after that stop point, action needs to happen continuously. So therefore, we have taken a commitment to become carbon negative by 2050, because carbon negative is like not a stop point. You can further do improvements, and improvement is a continual process. We have received a lot of global recognitions in climate change space, from UN Secretary General, from COP26 President Mr. Alok Sharma, Vice President of US, Al Gore, and we are COP26 business leader. Out of 16 business leaders identified, Dalmia is also one of the COP26 business leader. We were first in heavy industry sector to commit to carbon negative roadmap in 2018. Dalmia Cement is designated as carbon pricing champion by CPLC World Bank Group. And we were among the 5 climate defenders identified the BBC World globally. Dalmia is ranked #1 globally by CDP, which is a rating agency for the climate disclosures. And globally, they ranked us #1 in the whole cement sector in their cement sector report. We are the first triple joiner in the industry globally of ambitious commitments like RE100, EP100, EV100. We are the first Indian headquarter company to commit to science-based targets, and we are waiting for the net zero science-based targets so that we can align that with our commitment and apply for the net zero science-based targets. We are nearly 12.5 times water positive cement group. This means every drop of water we consume, we make available more than 12 drops of water through rainwater harvesting. Our vision is to be a leader in building materials and evoke pride in all stakeholders through customer centricity, innovation, sustainability, and our values. And to meet this vision, we have created a business philosophy of clean and green is profitable and sustainable. Because we want to break the myth that, or the mindset challenge that when we take a path of clean and green, it becomes costlier. So in fact, so far, in past 7-8 years, we have been breaking this myth. And this slide shows that how we have been breaking this myth. We have improved our capacity by 3 times. Our revenues have gone up by 6 times, EBITDA 7, and our GHG footprint has come down by 22%. So this is a snapshot of 10 years of our operations. We have committed, as I was saying, to carbon negative roadmap, and the key drivers of carbon negative roadmap that we have identified are switching to 100% blended cement by 2025. Currently, we produce around 80% blended cements, and now we are ramping up further capacities, grinding units, removing the bottlenecks so that we can switch to 100% blended cement by 2025. Another one is to use of 100% renewable electricity. So we are doing it by putting up waste heat recovery power plants, solar power plants. Then we have a target to double our energy productivity by 2030. We have already reached nearly 50% mark. Then use of renewable biomass, hazardous waste, hydrogen, and municipal solid waste to fully replace the fossil fuels by 2035. We have reached nearly 15%, and by 2025, we will reach 35%. That's the target we have taken. And by 2035, we will do it 100%. We have already taken the target to have significant electric transitions and use of electric vehicles. Carbon capture and utilization is very important lever, as I was mentioning, because 50 to 55% emissions in cement are energy independent. And then carbon sequestration and adoption of other advanced green technologies by 2040 to become carbon negative from carbon zero. This is a broad overview of our, a journey in the past, at present, and the future, where we would like to reach by 2040. So by 1990, we had a carbon footprint of 826. Today, our carbon footprint is in the range of 490. And by 2040, we would like to be minus 30. So basically, we will be absorbing 30 kg of CO2 per ton of cement, then emitting it. Our operations are very much aligned to sustainable development goals. We have mapped the priority SDGs with our business operations. And Since 1990, as you can see, there are more than 40% reductions that we have done in our carbon footprints. Sustainable consumption, responsible production, climate action, biodiversity protection, clean water and sanitation, quality education. There are a lot of SDGs where we are working on through our core operations in the businesses and through social responsibility arm of Dalmia Bharat, which is called Dalmia Bharat Foundation. In terms of quality education, we have schools, colleges where we are providing quality education, and many meritorious students every year come out of those schools in various exams, board exams. And we are also creating partnerships, knowledge partnerships at local level, global level, sharing our experiences and creating the mindset of change and climate action. We are championing, as I was mentioning, the sustainable consumption and production. We are championing the waste utilization for circular economy. As you can see, a lot of waste material is being used by us. Whether it is waste heat, whether it is hazardous material, non-hazardous material, whether it is energy, which is getting wasted, all of it are efforts that we make it usable, we make it and usable and convert it towards wealth. So from waste to wealth is our core philosophy, core action area. This is the EV100 commitment I was referring to in earlier slides for the EV transition. So we have taken a commitment that all of our vehicles which are within the 3.5 tons category will be converted to EV. Then 50% of the vehicles from 3.5 to 7.5 ton category will be converted to EV. And higher than 7.5 ton vehicles, 10% minimum commitment has been taken. And it can be increased depending upon the technology readiness. For example, we have already taken 3 trucks, electric trucks, and we are doing the pilot on them. Based on the successful pilot, we will be further ordering more trucks, more heavy vehicles in the higher category beyond 7.5 tons category for our own operations. We will also be developing the charging points so that those charging points can be developed, can be useful for the operations in our plants and mines and beyond our plants and mines. As I was referring to engagement and diversification, the knowledge partnerships that we have created. So these are our knowledge partners where we are being involved. These are the partnerships where we are sharing our best practices, we are sharing our experiences, our learning, and from where we are getting a lot of knowledge, a lot of information for our carbon negative roadmap, for our carbon negative challenge. And we look forward to have more and more partnerships through which we can update ourselves, we can update our carbon negative roadmap in terms of policy, in terms of technology, in terms of innovations, and various other similar requirements. So this is all from my side. If there is any question or further points which you would like me to clarify, I would be happy to take questions from you. Thank you so much.
Sir, participants, if any questions, time is now given, you can ask.
So it appears everything was very clear like glass to everybody. So there are no questions.
Sir, there is a question in the chat box. When will you apply CCUS in your plan?
Yes. So currently the pre-feasibility study has been taken place. ADB has supported us in the pre-feasibility study. The pre-feasibility study has been completed. And after the pre-feasibility study, the next step is to get the finance and to reach to the various financial bodies, because CCUS is a project with challenges. So either green procurement should happen or carbon market should happen. So these are the two levers through which the CCUS project can be implemented in developing countries, because we do not have funding from governments like it is in developed countries. So in the large scale projects, around 41, 42 large scale projects have been developed across the globe in CCUS. And all of them have implemented through capital subsidies from the government. And even for the operational point of view, the electricity that is provided to those projects is also subsidized. These facilities are not available currently in India. So the only option for us, in fact, that is the reason why we have not gone for CCS, carbon capture and storage, because policies like 45Q, which is applicable in US or carbon markets, they are not available in India. So the only available option for us was carbon capture and utilization, where some cost of capture can be taken care of by selling off the green product which can be made from utilization. But still there are barriers related to technology and finance, and we are hopeful to overcome those barriers, because in COP26 there is a nearly 130 trillion commitments have been made by the financial institutions to reach net zero. Similarly, carbon market has also been concluded in COP26, and hopefully both the actions which have been concluded in COP26 would be helpful in further scaling of this project, because it is a 0.5 million ton project, largest scale project of CCU in the cement industry.
Sir, we don't seem to have any more questions. So we want to thank you very much for the very informative and insightful talk. I believe all the participants will be taking this learning into their respective fields. Sir, we truly appreciate your valuable time here with us today. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much, and all the best for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Dear participants, we will be having a short tea break. We will resume after 36 minutes.
For all the questions, all the participant, very good morning. If there are any questions pertaining to CCUS, the next speaker is from banking sector. The last speaker, Anupam, talked about the financing that they have received from ADB. And the next speaker who will be joining us about half an hour from now is from the banking sector. So it's going to be very interesting in terms of how the financial institutions look at CCUS, right? So please park all your questions. I think the last speaker has left, but I'm very sure that the next speaker, Mr. Mehta, would be in a better position to answer all your queries. So please do join back after about half an hour. Thank you.